Welcome back to the channel. I trust that you're doing well. We're seeing some green right across the markets once again, at least at the time of making this video. We're seeing Bitcoin dominance continuing its slide. We're seeing total 3 showing signs of strength, and of course those are key ingredients for a healthy alt season. We're seeing the Ethereum ETF inflows begin to pick up once again, but we did recently see a little bit of outflows as well. But overall, we're still seeing quite a bit of accumulation for Ethereum. And of course, we're seeing lots of liquidations from high leverage traders. So in this video, we're going to get into all of that. We're going to see where we're at with this alt season. Can we be expecting one sometime soon, or are we going to have to wait a little bit just yet? So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to leave me a like, hit subscribe for future content, and let's get into the video. Well, look at that. We've got a lot of green across the board today to finish out the week. We've got Bitcoin up 1.65% in the last 7 days. We can see Ethereum up 12.79%, XRP up 8.82%, and we've got Solana up 6.55%. We can see the overall crypto market cap has increased to 3.86 trillion, which is up 1.36%. The 24-hour trade volume is also up 22.93%, bringing it up to 178 billion. And Bitcoin dominance continuing to slide 59.9%. We'll be taking a closer look at Bitcoin dominance in this video. And we can see on the Ethereum ETFs that we're right back in accumulation. We did see some outflows back here on July 31st. We did see outflows of 152 million. We can see here on August 3rd, there was an additional 465 million in outflows. But since then, we can see on August 4th, 73.22 million of inflows. August 5th, 35.12 million in inflows. And we can see on August 6th, 222 million of inflows. So once again, we're back to accumulation on the Ethereum ETFs, looking good. Moving on to the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, we can see it has ticked up just slightly, but it is still at a neutral read of 59. So this thing still has plenty of room to run if the market continues to pump, and it is looking pretty good right now, isn't it? And jumping into the Bitcoin dominance, we can see quite a bit of weakness beginning to show up on Bitcoin dominance once again as it continues to slide after its last back test of that 200 simple. You know, we have been observing that this is broken structure. You know, we got the lower low here as opposed to back here, and we got a little bit of a bounce attempt, which has now been rejected twice off the 200 simple moving average. And we even see the 55 exponential looking for a cross through that 200 to the downside. So on a daily time frame, this is certainly starting to look fairly weak. Now, if we bring this into a weekly time frame, which is a more significant time frame, we can see this is beginning to have some downstream effects as Bitcoin dominance is just slammed right back down into that 55 exponential moving average. When we look left, we can see that the 55 was tested back here, and we can also see that the 55 was tested here after Bitcoin dominance broke back up above it. So basically, Bitcoin dominance has been above this 55 for a couple years straight, and we can see that right now that daily is starting to have some downstream effects, which is applying a ton of pressure to that weekly, and perhaps we're going to get a break of that 55 soon. And that is what I'm looking for. I want to see Bitcoin dominance breaking below this 55, and ultimately I'd like to see it take out this pivot down here, because that will be officially breaking the structure of the weekly uptrend. So things are looking interesting here. We are seeing some weakness in Bitcoin dominance. It is slamming into that 55, and perhaps we're going to get a break of that soon, but we'll just observe this, and when it happens, I'll be sure to let you know. So let's go ahead and move along to total 3. So this is the entire crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stablecoins. And recently we did see total 3 have a little bit of a pullback here. And to be fair, that is a lower high as opposed to this pivot and as opposed to this pivot as well. But recently we are seeing a really interesting bounce come in for total 3, which is actually giving us a higher low as opposed to back here and as opposed to this pivot back here as well. So what we're seeing is the makings of an uptrend where we're getting higher highs and higher lows, and total 3 is now working its way back up to retest this pivot right here. Now what I did is I marked that pivot out with this purple box. So the bottom side of the purple box is marking these candle bodies here, and the top of the purple box is marking this wick right here. The bottom side of the purple box is coming in at approximately 1.08 trillion in market cap, and the top side of that purple box is coming in at approximately 1.1 trillion. And what I would like to see is I'd like to see total 3 marching its way up and breaking through that area of resistance and begin to open and close daily candles up above that level. If it's able to do that, it's going to not only be keeping this uptrend intact, but it'll start to undo the plague of these lower highs that we've been seeing ever since this pivot right back here. Another key ingredient to a really healthy alt season. And as you can see, we're working our way towards that right now. So the big thing on Total 3 is we want to first and foremost see this bounce continue and get up above that purple box. We want to see it opening and closing daily candles above that level. And jumping into Ethereum on a daily time frame, we can see Ethereum right now at the time of recording is attacking this major area of resistance that I marked out by this purple box. Of course, if we zoom out, and for those of you that have been following along, that purple box is simply marking out this pivot right here where sellers were last seen very aggressively in the market. But also notice that if Ethereum breaks through this resistance level here, not only is it taking out this pivot here, but it's also taking out this pivot as well as this one back here. And in all three of these instances, that's where sellers got really aggressive and tried to sell the price of this asset off. And right now, Ethereum is making a solid attempt at trying to push through that purple box. Of course, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for daily candle body closures. I want to see Ethereum getting up above this box and opening and closing daily candles. And it would be nice to see it supported by good volume down below as well. If Ethereum is able to do that and hold up above that level, it will be officially resolving all three of these major pivots in the past where sellers were present and made a solid attempt to knock Ethereum to the downside. So as it sits right now, Ethereum's looking pretty darn good. It had a nice run up recently, all these green candles in a row, got just below this area of resistance, and we saw a little bit of selling coming in. And as I was mentioning the last couple videos, you know, pretty strong response off that 30 simple moving average. And so long as Ethereum, you know, was to remain sideways, maybe a little bit down from here, that this was looking to me like a potential bullish reset. Was still a little bit on the early side to just simply call that with conviction. But now that Ethereum has popped up off that 30 simple moving average and hitting this area of resistance, you know, pretty much in just about a week's worth of time, that is looking very strong. If we drop down to some of the momentum, we can see that the stochastic momentum is already crossed back to the upside and getting into the bullish control zone. We can see that the RSI is already well back into the bullish control zone. And at the time of making this video, it's looking to get back up above that EMA, which is also in the bullish control zone. Now that's not technically confirmed because if I look at the daily candle here, it still has 6 hours remaining, but looking pretty darn good. Pretty good way to close out the week for Ethereum. So basically, Ethereum as it sits right now is knocking on heaven's door. And if it can break through this area of resistance and maintain up above there, then probability is just simply going to continue to favor the bulls at that point in time. And things could get interesting for Ethereum. So we'll keep a very close eye on that. And moving right along to Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And this is beginning to look more and more like a bottom. We saw Ethereum put in its bottom right here against Bitcoin, put in this higher pivot point here, you know, versus the last breakdown area, which was there. Then, of course, we got the higher low, and then we got the higher high. And as it sits at the time of making this video, Ethereum is also breaking out versus its Bitcoin pairing. So this is looking really, really good. I put this horizontal on the chart, which is coming in at 0.04, which is marking out this area of resistance here, as well as this pretty significant pivot on the market. This is where, you know, Ethereum just began to really slip versus its Bitcoin pairing. So, you know, this starts to look even more interesting if it gets up above that horizontal. If we take this chart out to a weekly, we can see that Ethereum right now is looking to attempt to cleanly break through that 55 exponential moving average. If we look left, we can see the 55 was found as significant resistance here, as well as here. So we're starting to see Ethereum begin to undo some of this slide that it's been in for the last, well, over a year, and it's starting to look a lot better. Of course, on the weekly time frame, we want to see it break through that 55. That's one less thing that is providing resistance. And then, of course, we want to see it get above this horizontal here. Once Ethereum starts getting up above there, things are going to be looking extremely interesting for Ethereum. So again, always a good idea to pay attention to our altcoins and how they're doing versus their Bitcoin pairing. And in this case here, this is starting to look very much like a bottom. So there could be some very interesting times ahead for Ethereum, but we'll just take it one step at a time, level by level, and we'll keep a very close eye on this chart. And jumping into Solana on a daily time frame, we can see Solana is on the move to the upside once again, currently up about 1.69% at the time of making this video in the last 24 hours. And not too long ago, Solana got the golden cross between that 55 exponential moving average as well as that 200 EMA. And when that was was taking place, I was throwing that on your radar and I was saying, hey, these golden crosses are really good, but they can also be magnetic to price action, that it's not uncommon to see the price of an asset pull back in and test those golden crosses. Now, there's a couple ways that can happen. Sometimes you'll see the asset pull into a relevant area, so it doesn't come all the way down to the golden cross, which initially it tried to do on this wick right here, which produced this green candle to the upside, and that was this pivot back here. So Solana pulled back, hit this pivot here, attempted a little bit of a bounce, but then rolled over to the downside once again, alongside the rest of the market at that point in time. But what we're seeing now is Solana has pulled all the way back in to the 55, the 200, as well as the 200 simple, which I have here in white. So now it has officially tested that golden cross in my books. So nice to see a good bounce here. If price action continues to grind to the upside, I would say this golden cross is confirmed at that point in time. So we'll keep a close eye on that. We can also see that if Solana is able to continue its run to the upside here, that we now have a higher low as opposed to back here, and back here where Solana put in its bottom. And of course, we got this high in price action and a higher high. So now that Solana is producing a nice bounce here, what we're looking for is we're looking for it to take out this area here to, to keep the structure of this uptrend intact. So let's go ahead and just mark that. Maybe for this one, we'll just use a horizontal line. Maybe we'll do something like this. I'll move it up just ever so slightly to those candles. There, good enough. So now we can see at $206. So if Solana works its way up, the next thing we want to see is breaking up above $206, and then this uptrend that Solana's been working on it'll continue to be intact, and we'll be looking for that higher high at that point in time. So looking pretty good here for Solana. And of course, let's take a look at Solana versus Bitcoin on a daily time frame. And we can see that Solana is trying to work on a bottom here versus Bitcoin, but still has some work cut out for it. We can see that Solana made some really nice moves back here and then just kind of rolled over to the downside. And perhaps we get a higher low as opposed to back here. It does seem to be working on that rate now. What I've done is I put this purple box on the chart, which is marking out this area of resistance right here, as well as this area of resistance here. What I'm looking for here is I want to see Solana come up and break up above that purple box, opening and closing some daily candles up here. If Solana is able to do that, this will be looking more and more like a bottom to me versus Bitcoin. So the bottom side of that purple box is coming in at approximately 0.00171, and we have the top side of that box coming in at 0.00177. So if we can get a break up above there on a daily time frame, get some candles opening and closing up above that level, then at that point in time, this will be very much looking like a bottom versus Bitcoin. So some interesting moves for Solana. It's doing okay versus its dollar pairing. We've got that daily uptrend. And of course, what we want to see next is we want to see Solana gain some ground on Bitcoin. Well, that does it for this one, everyone. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you becoming bullish on the alt sector? Do you think alt season is closer than we think? Or do you think we're going to have to exercise our patience muscles a little more just yet? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out this video. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And until I do, have yourself a powerful day.